What's up?
Rob already attacking the leftovers. Look at that, man.
And you know what?
Already got the leftovers in front of him.
No, I am going to. Right now, I'm eating a plate of pretzels. So I will get there. That's coming. This is the appetizer. All right. So a couple things. As I mentioned, Nick has kind of gone out of his way. And some of this is based off of questions about the Eagles offense. So let me give you some stats here. And this was going into yesterday's game. So the Eagles offensively ranked fifth in scoring at 27.3. They're eighth in rushing at 128.1. And they're 12th in passing offense at 234.8. Something else to keep in mind, Tone. They are converting third downs at 48.1%, which is first in the NFL. Red zone, which has really been a bugaboo, they've gotten much better at. They're improving week to week. They're now up to 9th in red zone scoring.
In the NFL? The Eagles, hold on, let's run it back one more time. The Eagles offense is now ranked 9th in the NFL in red zone efficiency?
Yes, and they're first and third down. So,
wow. Think about where they were.
I mean, I think about it across the board, pretty good numbers, right? And I understand, like, there have been games, like, for example, let's just go to Kansas City, okay? If you watch that game, yes, Devontae Smith was really good. I thought Swift was really good. But all things considered, do you think they played their A game? I don't, right? And no, I think that's sort of been the case a lot of the years so far. So I look at it from a standpoint of our eyeballs are telling us that they can be better, right? But I also think that I don't know that people fully understand, the challenges of some of the defenses that they have faced, which Kansas City's defense is really good. Like I heard Jason Kelsey talking about this, and he was like, Steve Spagnuolo was doing stuff that you couldn't believe, and they have crazy talent on that side of the ball. I think
play fast.
I think the other thing we have to take into account is just like you have to give a head coach or you have to give a quarterback or somebody else a little bit of time. I think we got to give a little bit of time to Brian Johnson. And I know there are a lot of people that say, he got the job. He should hit the ground running. It doesn't work.
Yeah, that's not how that works. But, to your point, I do think the fair thing to do would be to give him time to grow into his role.
Yeah.
Right. I can't help but notice, though, there are still these moments where I question just his ability to just understand basic situations.
Yeah.
You go back to back on on bubble screens. I didn't understand that. I didn't. Like, is that supposed to be your blitz beater? Is that supposed to be your quick game? That's unacceptable to me. I expect at the very least for him to take advantage of the talent he has and try to get Jalen, throwing that ball forward rather than throwing it laterally. For these bubble screens. And again, man, I question him still. I want him to do well. I want him to continue to trend in the right direction. But there are these moments where I see him take a step forward, a couple back. He might take 2 steps forward, then he'll take a step back. It's been very up and down with him all throughout the season. Now, I will give him credit with this. They are still, like you mentioned, number 1 on third down. They had a rough game. They had a rough third down game, their worst third down game of the season on Monday. They've become highly efficient in the red zone. Let's really put this in perspective, right? There was a point in the season where they were getting down there and only settling for field goals. Only settling for field goals.
Jake Elliott. Yep, a lot.
It was a lot of Jake Elliott. Can you imagine if the way they played in the first half of this, in that first part of the season, if they brought that same kind of red zone efficiency to that Chiefs game, they lose. Mm-hmm. They lose. They were 100% in the red zone, 3 for 3. The Chiefs were, I believe, 3 for 5 or 2 for 5 or 2 for 6. They were 2 for 5 because they only put up 17 points. They were 2 for 5 in the red zone.
Yeah.
So when you think about it from that perspective, Yeah, there are now the issue is starting to kind of leak into the between the 20s, but the red zone is stepping up. You have to give him some kind of, again, grace to grow into the position. I'm still skeptical of him. Don't get it twisted. I'm still very skeptical of him, but I want to be as reasonable, and I don't want to be short-sighted in terms of the
Yeah.
season.
Well, I'll tell you
So,
things that concern me. You just touched on one. I don't know that there's a feel yet in game. How you went to back-to-back screens that were very similar. I don't know. I don't know what the thinking was. I don't know what they thought they saw. I don't know. I don't know that Jalen didn't audible to that. I don't know. I didn't like it, whatever it was. It took them a long time to get Goddard going early in the season. It shouldn't have taken that long for that to happen. He's obviously utilized A.J. Brown in a great way. I think Devontae too. I think he's done a nice job with the wideouts. He's operating at a bit of a disadvantage from last year what Steichen had before Jalen hurts the shoulder. When Jalen's fully healthy, there's the threat of Jalen running a lot more than what Brian Johnson's had for a good amount of this year.
That's a good point. Yeah,
that impacts things a little bit in the RPO. It impacts things just generally. So I think that's a little piece of it. I think I don't know how much of DeAndre Swift's sort of production dipping before the bye was DeAndre hitting a wall versus they didn't put him in the best position to succeed, because I liked what I saw Monday night.
It was creativity. They used
there was some
jet sweeps and the screen game. Yeah, that was the best. The screen game from the running back perspective has looked all season.
For sure. Now, what I want to see going forward is I want to see him try to get Julio Jones a little bit more involved. I know AJ and Devontae are going to get theirs. I want to see them stay consistent with the running back attack. And I say that, I don't mean strictly running. I mean catching the ball with Swift. And I want to feel like they're putting Jalen into like rhythm sets here on certain series. I don't feel like it's been that way.
I agree. That's a great pull by you, the rhythm part. I don't feel a rhythm to Brian Johnson right now. I don't get a sense that he has a feel at this point in the season. And I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. The fact that at this point in the season, he still doesn't have a feel for what he wants to do. But look, they're 9-1. You always go for, no matter what we say, you can always fall back on the idea that, well, the offensive production from a number standpoint is still relatively the same as last year. They're 9-1, same as last year at this point in the season. Top 5 scoring offense. I believe they're top 5 in yards, right? Or if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
So Jalen is more accurate this year, believe it or not. He is. They're throwing the ball more. So it's like, let's be honest. We're nitpicking here. And this goes back to your original point about how locally we hold this team to a much higher standard than what the national media does.
Agreed. Yeah, agreed. So I think I get Nick's defense. You don't want to be over the top with it, because then it starts to look like you're going, too far with it. But I understand where he's coming from. And he's also lived that life as an offensive coordinator. He knows what goes into it. He knows what goes into the first year. I think the thing for me that surprised me, and maybe I bought too much into this, I thought because Jalen and Brian Johnson had such familiarity and Brian Johnson had been here, I thought the transition would have been a little bit
smoother.
Yeah, a little more seamless. That's the only thing. And the other thing, we can sit here, and if 7 weeks from now, 6 weeks from now, whatever, we're at the end of the regular season, and you come away with it saying it still sort of feels that same way, then that's worrisome. Because even if you look at the next couple weeks, like, they're going to have to score Sunday. This Bills team is not going to lay down. They're going to have to score the next week against Dallas, or against San Fran, excuse me. They're going to have to score the next week against Dallas, and Seattle, I think they're kind of being exposed a little bit, but we know how hard it is to play at that place. So, the offense is going to have to be there the next 4 weeks. You can't keep counting on the defense just to shut everybody down. And because frankly, it's going to be really hard for this defense to shut down these offenses they're going to be facing coming up. It just is. Yeah,
I agree. From an offensive production perspective, this next 3-game stretch is going to be the toughest from an off, you got the Bills, believe it or not, even if they turn the ball over a lot, they're still they still have a decent run game. I think their running back is ranked top 5 in rushing yards.
Yeah. Cook this week is really good.
Right. And still got Stephon Diggs. Josh Allen is still
Gabe
Josh
Davis
Allen.
is nothing to sneeze at either. I mean,
yeah, he can catch you slipping over the top, so you got to watch him.
Yep.
But then you follow that up with the 49ers, who seem like they're like a freight train that can't be stopped at the moment.
They're different after coming out of that bye, man. They're different. They're back.
Yeah, they are. Christian McCaffrey leads the league in rushing by a wide margin.
Yep.
Wide margin. He's in the 900s while everybody else is still flirting in the 600s. So he's
a touchdown machine.
He's doing amazing things right now.
Yep.
Kittle
was good last night. Debo looked good.
Exactly. And then you got the Cowboys after that, who continue to drop 30 and 40 plus points on bums. So, we have to pay attention to teams like that at the end of the day because they have the offensive firepower. But this is something I want you to consider here, Rob. I want you to consider this.
Yeah. I'm enjoying the emphasis you put on bums, but anyway, keep going. Yeah.
So what I did there?
Yes.
Consider this and hear me out on this, right? And I want to know what you think, after I lay this out for you. Yes, all those teams I mentioned, they're very capable of putting up points. They're capable of making things very difficult for opposing defenses and even the opposing offense, right? They're very good teams against everyone else. But I brought this up with Cilio. Although the Eagles look the way they look, and a lot of people still question their pedigree because of how it looks, and I think that's a college football mentality that we're bringing to the NFL that needs to stop. But although it hasn't looked as sexy as a Cowboys or a 49ers or whatever, even the Lions at times, right? Even though it hasn't looked as sexy, what the Eagles do that I believe they do better than anyone else is that they force you to play their brand of football. They pull you in to their echo chamber. They force you to play up to their level. They force you to play into their atmosphere. And what I'm saying by that is, yeah, the Eagles are kind of herky-jerky a little bit, but what they do is they muck the game they muck the game up so much. They're so good situationally. They kind of force a team to, in a way, play on their field, play in their environment, in their ecosystem. I'll put it to you this way, right? There are some animals who operate better on land and some animals that operate better on water.
Yep.
What the Eagles do, they pour those land animals into the deep end and they question you, can you swim with us? Yep. And I think that's what the Eagles do better than anybody. They pull you into that part of the water and they force you to prove that you can swim. Mm-hmm. And the Eagles have shown that they can swim, hence why they had the league leading record at 9-1. What are your thoughts on that notion?
Look, I think it's fair. I think the biggest thing that interests me to watch week to week here with this team, I know last week was kind of the exception to the rule because they or at least early in the game they give a lot of rushing yards. But when they force these teams to go one-dimensional and then they start throwing and then they see the pass rush, then they start to get out of their comfort zone. This is where they go into the deep end of the pool, or when they go from land to water, water to land, to use your comparison. That's the thing. I want to see if they're able to do that and force their will like this with these teams. They got Miami. Think about what they did to Miami.
Perfect example.
All right.
Perfect example.
Tyreek Hill looks like human in that game. Tua looked bad, quite frankly. They couldn't run the ball when they were the best rushing team up until that point with Mostert and that crew. Couldn't run it at all. Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden they look pedestrian and human. So that's the more of what you have to see, the defense doing that kind of thing to these really good offenses. And I just think too, if Kyle Shanahan, I'll just take the Niners game, for example, wants to block this thing up the same way that he did in the playoffs. I can't imagine he would, but if he's going to be stubborn, you're going to see the same thing happen. I'm not telling you somebody's going to tear up their elbow, but you're going to see Purdy get hit a lot, even though their offense is quick hit, get it out. You'll get there. They'll get home. They will.
Yeah, absolutely. You brought up that Dolphins game, which aligns perfectly with what I'm saying. Dolphins, they've been swimming on everybody. They've been To use the Dolphins, metaphor, right? They've been swimming on everybody and they've been drowning everybody with their massive offensive output, all that kind of stuff. And as soon as they came to Philly, the Eagles found a way to pull that dolphin out of the water and bring them to the desert and ask, can you breathe? Can you breathe over here with us?
Mm-hmm.
And that's what they do. Cowboys are dropping 40 points, 30 points, 40 points, 30 points on everybody, right? They come to Philly. All of a sudden, okay, Cowboy,
whatever it was.
Yeah. Okay, Cowboy, can you shoot with us?
Mm-hmm.
Is your gun big enough to roll on this side of town? And all of a sudden, a team that's averaging 30 plus points a game, putting it on everybody, they come to Philly only 23 points. Mm-hmm. They get shut down in that third quarter. That gives the Eagles a 11-point lead. They force these teams to come out of their comfort zone, and they force these teams to play a full 60 minutes of football. It doesn't matter what ecosystem the Eagles are in. That's the thing about the Eagles. They can play in many ecosystems. They can play in the deep end. They can play in the desert. They can play in the mountaintops. You know what I'm saying? They can play in the swamps. Wherever they need to get it done, they find a way to morph. They're like Dwarren. They adapt. You feel me? Like that's the difference between the Eagles and everybody else. They adapt so well to the elements. Everyone else, bring your pea coat. You know what I mean? Oh, bring your water shoes. They may not make it, but the Eagles, nah, man, they just continue to morph. Yeah. And I think that's the most dangerous asset about that team.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think it's something that I don't know that we look at enough. I don't know we appreciate / recognize the job that they've done from a defensive standpoint, and they've done it with a lot of new faces, certainly on the back end. But I just they're so good up front. They're so good on the tackles. They're so good on the outside, in terms of the edge. There's just so many different ways that they can get you. If you just get competent play on the back end, they're going to be in business. They just are. There's no other way to put it.
That's where they're trending. But they're trending that way. Again, like I said, you shut out Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid. And look, every game's different. Every game calls for different circumstances, all that kind of stuff. But what it does for your confidence level, what it does for your defensive coordinator's confidence level, right? You can't quantify that, right? It's something that it has to carry over. I'm willing to go out on a limb is that this second half of the season is going to be the best that we see of this Eagles defense.
Yeah, no, I think it's fair. I do. So a couple things on the Bills front. They're going to be without Dane Jackson and Taylor Rapp. Dane Jackson is a cornerback, starting corner. Taylor Rapp is one of their safeties, but their nickel corner, Taron Johnson, has cleared concussion protocol, so it looks like he'll be good to go. That's a key component. We talked to Mike Catalana from Buffalo, covers the Bills earlier this week, and he said that's one to look out for because he's playing extremely well. So if they get him back, that's good, but they're still shorthanded on the back end. So this feels like a big AJ Brown game to me. I don't know. I know I'm not going out on a limb saying that, especially coming off the way that he played last week, but I just feel like that dude, he's so motivated and he's so good. I don't see the Bills being able to slow him down in this week. He's going to get loose. And Jalen and Nick will go to him early to kind of get him back into the flow of things.
Yeah, they're good for that. They're good for if a guy has a not so desirable game, they're good for overcorrecting and making sure he gets fed early and often. Yeah, I agree with you. And I think the chat brought it up. It's a Kelly Green Sunday. I mean,
yes, sir.
How can you bet against it? Yeah. How can you bet against the slime? How can you?
Slime?
the slime. Listen, we get down and dirty, Rob. A lot of people. I told you, a lot of people can't play where we play.
Okay,
you feel me?
I like
they can't survive the slime. They just can't.
I'll tell you, that's it. If the Eagles can take them out, that's it. You can say bye Buffalo if that's the case. The Eagles put a travel advisory out, I guess, for the sports complex. I guess there's going to be a lot going on this Sunday. So they got the Eagles at 425. They're asking fans, if you can, to take public transportation. All illegally parked cars will be towed. I wasn't even aware. Well, I'm trying to let me just pull it up here.
Yeah, what else is going on down there?
That's what I'm saying. I got to check this thing. I don't know. It just talks about how all right. So Sunday, no Sixers. They're off. All right. Flyers. Now this could very well be a concert or something else too. Just keep that in mind. Flyers. No Flyers today and tomorrow. Okay. All right. Well, we'll see. I'll see if I can dig up what else is going on down there. But it's not a Sixers or Flyers deal.
Is it construction going on down there? I mean,
it could be something like that. It could be, or there's just been an inordinate amount of illegal parked cars. I have no idea, but they just put that out there. So the takeaways from Nick Sirianni's press conference, he once again defended Brian Johnson. He said also that he's not ruling out Avonte Maddox returning at some point. The other thing is, Tone, he was asked about some of his histrionics, when he's jawing. I don't know if you saw or heard the audio when he's coming off the field on Sunday. He gets into it with some Chiefs fans, et cetera. And one thing he said was, I'm never going to change being who I am. And that's who I am always. I'm that way on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. I'm going to be that way on Sunday or Monday or whatever. I'm going to stay true to who I am. And that's cool. Like, look, ultimately, I want him to stay true to who he is because I think that brings the best out in people. I think it also is important to his players that he looks that way. The only thing I would say is, like, you can do that stuff if you win. If you lose, it's going to get old really fast with the local, people. And you're also saying, I don't mind being the heel. And he's become the heel around the NFL. He's become the guy that if he's not your coach, you can't stand him. It is what it is. If you're going to conduct yourself that way, I don't have a problem with it. But I'm just saying, that's what they're the offshoots of that, so to speak.
No, I mean, you're right. Nick Sirianni has fully embraced being the heel of the NFL. And I don't mind either, especially if you're winning, right? I mean, he got humbled big time in his first year wearing that $B shirt, and I think he understands timing. When they lost that Jets game, you didn't see him ramping and running. He was talking about the issues and so on and so forth, and took accountability for whatever his part was in that thing. But I'm rolling with it, man. Look, at the end of the day, man, this dude's feisty, man. He's brazen, he's brash, it's who he is, right? Yep. I mean, the last thing I want to do is tell somebody to not be who they are, and it affects their production.
Agreed.
Right? Because at the end of the day, when you hire somebody to do any kind of job, right, or you hire somebody to lead your company or provide a certain skill set to what you do, you did not only hire them based off of their skill set, you also hire them based off of who they were. And one of the things I hate most is when you ask somebody to do a task, you bring them in to do something for you, and all of a sudden you want to change how they do it. You want to change how they think and all that kind of stuff. It's like, well, hold on, wait. Me being who I was got me in this door. Now you're trying to change me. It makes no sense to me.
I'll give you. God, sorry.
No, yeah. So like I'm completely rolling with Nick Sirianni's mentality, man. He's passionate. Listen, I think I relate to him in a way because I'm very passionate. I speak my mind a lot, and often my wife tells me to listen, kind of curve it a little bit. So I totally understand what that is. And look, man, when you're 9-1, you can talk like that, and when you're not 9-1, kiss the ring. Yeah. So just relax, okay? Just take it easy. Just have some fun and enjoy the ride, people. It's all right. When we start losing, then I'll hear what you got to say.
Yeah, I think a good example of this, like I don't know, making guys feel like they have to change who they are a little bit. Do you remember Embiid? And I'm not talking about last year. It was a couple years back. He was really exuberant, reacting to things and all that. And there was some kind of pushback, either nationally, locally, or whatever. Then he went into sort of conservative mode, and then he said he wanted to get back to being him, and it was hurting his joy of the game and all this other stuff. You don't want to listen to that outside noise. You got to be yourself, and it's easier said than done. But I think that's what Nick is trying to say. Like, this is who I am. If you don't like it, that's fine, but I'm not changing the way I am.
And that's the weird part. People, I think people are having a hard time believing him when he says, "Yo, this is who I am." Everybody close to him that you hear talking about is like, yo, that's really who he is. Yep. You know what I mean? You see, whenever he has his kids on the podium, they got some little personalities on them as well. Like, I mean, that's who he is.
Yep.
And sooner or later, people are going to have to respect that, right? And look, do I wish he was a little more short spoken in press conferences at times? Do I sometimes think he rambles at times at press conferences? Yeah, for sure. But on the sideline, I want him to be as rambunctious. I want him to be as aggressive. He's into it. He's into it. You know what I mean? It's almost like he's a fan out there calling the games. Like it's like he's like how would you? It's almost like he looks as if how any fan would be if they were the coach of a football team, right? And here's another thing, right? He's a fan of his guys. Yes. You know what I mean? That's what you're seeing. He's their biggest supporter. He's their biggest supporter. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like he's like that dad on the sideline at at his daughter's or his son's soccer game or basketball game, and he's just like, yeah, let's go. He's wearing the gear. He's buying the jersey. You know what I'm saying? He's at every PTA and making the brownies for the kids and making sure that he's that guy. You know what I mean? So you gotta take the good with the bad with a man like that, man. And also, man, look. He's Italian. He has that, he
says it himself. He says it himself.
He has that spice. He has that zest in him. You know what I mean?
Yeah, he says it himself. Hey, so just to back up what we were talking about with the red zone and how they're ninth now. Yeah. Good stat from Josh Tolentino, who covers the Birds for the Inquirer. Yeah, so it's the first time since week 3 that they've been ranked in the top 10 in red zone efficiency. So they were 15th week 2, 7th week 3, 25th, 24th, 27th, 23rd. This is where the climb starts. 19th, 18th, 13th, 12th, and now they got it to 9th. So they're making strides. Not perfect, but they're making strides.
And you have to, whether we want to or not, we have to give credit to Brian Johnson for keeping it simple, stupid. You know what I mean?
Exactly. No, exactly. All right. Let's hit it. Let's come back. We got a bunch of you got a good question, which we didn't get to in the first segment, which I want to dive into. I have one for you too. So we'll have dual questions. Mine, tease what yours involves. Mine involves Howie Roseman and moves that he's made over the last 5 years.
Are you referring to the underrated question that we talked about before? Okay, yeah. Right. So basically, this Eagles team, they're 9-1, yet people still have a hard time believing them when they see them. They see the product and they're not a fan of the product.
So let's do a little bit more on that. And we'll
get into that.
Yeah, we'll get into a couple other things. The desperation of this Bills team, Bills offensive weapons, Bills defense, etc. We'll do all those things when we get back. Don't go anywhere. He's Tony Shields. I'm Rob Ellis. We are Sports Take, JAKIB Sports YouTube Network. Let me tell you about Jim Murray and Principal Financial Group, because knowing who to trust with your finances can be challenging, right? Can be difficult. But I found the right person with Jim and Principal Financial Group. And, for you, it could be anything: retirement planning, 401k review, insurance review. You have your own business and you're trying to get your employee benefits off the ground and you don't know exactly what the best route to go is. That's another resource that Jim can help you with. I know I've entrusted my IRA, my 401k rollovers with Jim, and I couldn't be any happier. You will be too. Give him a call, 610-996-4751, 610-996-4751. You can also email him as well, Murray, MURRAY, .jim@principal.com. That's Murray.jim@principal.com.